Well, hello, welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things you can look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon, including a fun video where I'm trying to guess a mystery blend, and then another really fun video where I'm trying to sample various preparations of a particular pipe blend using different pressure methods. Fun stuff there. I'll talk about a good experience selling something on Facebook Marketplace, which I don't think has ever happened to me before. Some really exciting news of a brand new camera that I now have in my possession. We're going to be talking about how I got that, why I got it, all that good stuff. We'll have your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag askstuffandthings. And then at the very end, we'll have Patreon shout outs and updates, thanking our Patreon supporters and letting you know what you can look forward to exclusively on Patreon for this coming week. So let's get into it. All right, gang, upcoming videos. What can you look forward to on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon? Well, this coming week, exclusively to Patreon, will be the video, Can I Guess the Mystery Blend? Now, our good friend Les Brady and Patreon supporter sent me a couple of blends, some GLP's blends, but then he also sent me an unmarked jar with a blend inside, covered in question marks. And basically, he wanted me to try the blend and try to determine what it was. And so I did a video. I think it's going to be really fun. You should definitely check it out on Patreon. I would love to get your comments, and I especially want Les to comment on that video on Patreon and let me know how close I came. I'm fairly certain that I knew the genre, the kind of blend, most of the components in the blend, but I'm curious to know how close I got, and I think I even did a guess as to what the blend was. I'm sure I was way off on that, but it's going to be a fun video, so check that out on Patreon this week. Next week on Stuff and Things YouTube and on Patreon, we will have a review of this, my beautiful M-1951 Parka reissue, or I guess replica, by Bronson Manufacturing. They sent this to me, I reviewed it, and I love it. I think it's fantastic, and a lot of other people have complimented me on it. I think that's the sentence I was trying to make there. So check this review out. That'll be coming up in a couple weeks. And then after that, on Stuff and Things Patreon, we will have the pipe blend experiment that Mike, our good friend from Alaska, sent me. And I have to say, okay, let's talk about this for a little bit. We're in this upcoming video section, but I am usually fairly skeptical about things involving, like, people talk a lot about different pipes being used for different blends and getting the most out of a blend by using a different pipe shape. Or they talk about methods for lighting the pipe. Like, you have to use wooden matches. If you use a Zippo, you'll ruin the flavor. If you use a Bic, you'll ruin the flavor. They talk a lot about ghosting and things, and I'm usually fairly skeptical of these things. I don't think that they don't exist, but I think that the amount that they affect things, affect the flavor and the character of a blend, is much less than a lot of people let on. I think a lot of people like to get very pedantic about things, especially a hobby like pipes. I think it draws people who have a tendency toward being pedantic. So when I got this little experiment from Mike, I was kind of skeptical that these different methods he was using to prepare this blend. It was Orongo Balkan Supreme, and he did sous vide, pressure cooker, oven, noodle press at various temperatures and for various times. And I was like, I'm sure I'll notice a little bit, but I don't think I'll notice very much. There was a very noticeable difference between some of the methods, and I was kind of surprised. So that video is going to be coming up. Really interesting stuff. I think it's going to be fun as well. So lots of good stuff coming up. I also have a brand new, really beautiful leather camera bag that a company called Craver has sent me. I'm hopefully going to be picking that up today from the post office. And yeah, lots of good stuff coming up. There's going to be a lot more good photography stuff coming up, especially about the new camera that I have in my possession now. So stay tuned for everything on Stuff and Things YouTube and Stuff and Things Patreon. So I've been talking about trying to sell a lot of extraneous things, trying to clean out, do a spring cleaning, unburdening myself from a lot of possessions that I don't need, don't have the room for, don't use, things for hobbies that I've never really delved into very much. And so I've been doing that. I've been selling a lot of stuff, putting stuff on eBay, putting stuff on Craigslist, putting stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And I have been able to get rid of a lot of things. It's been nice. But with that, there is a lot of headache and a lot of hassle, especially with Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace. 9 times out of 10, if you get a response from something that you put there, it is fake. It is some sort of scam. If it's not a fake scam, if it's not somebody who's just flat out trying to scam you, it's someone who is flaky. They're like, oh, I'd like to come see it, and then they never come. Why don't you meet me here? You go there and they don't show up. Stuff like that. It's just a constant barrage of annoyance, usually. But the other day I had, excuse me, I had my whole gerbil set up on Facebook Marketplace for a very good price. You know, I had the aquarium that they were in, all the different accessories, hundreds of dollars worth of stuff, and I was only asking for a couple hundred. Had it on Facebook Marketplace for weeks. Never got any response from it whatsoever. And then the other day, I got a message through Facebook Messenger that just said, is this still available? I'm interested. And it was from someone named Kelsey. And I wrote back and said, yes, it is still available. She said, what time are you free? I said, I should be home after 4. Like, I think on that day I was getting off around 4. She wrote back and said, does 4:30 work? I said, yes. I gave her an address and she said, okay, I will see you then. At that time, exactly that time, she messaged me to say that she was there. I went down, I met her. She was nice. She was normal. She came up with me. We gathered everything together. I helped her carry it all down. She was getting it to get a hamster for her kid. She was very excited about it. Her kid is like 10 years old. Brought it down into her car, put it in. She pulled out the money. She didn't try to barter. She didn't try to haggle. She just gave me the money. She said, thank you. She shook my hand and she left. Now, that shouldn't be exceptional. That should just be how that works, but it almost never does work that way. So it was amazing to have such a nice, easy experience selling something on Facebook Marketplace. It's been kind of crazy though, because I've sold a lot of things, and you know, I had an old Lego set from the 90s that I've been hauling around with me for decades. And it was one of those big pirate ships. It was a really cool pirate ship from the late 90s. With just really big, had cloth sails, really cool set. Didn't have the box for it anymore, but I got it out of storage and I put it all together. It was missing just a few pieces, so I ordered those pieces. And when they finally arrived, I put it up on eBay and got $700 for it, and it sold immediately. Like as soon as I put it up on eBay, and it was like, oh my God, I could have gotten a lot more for this. It's been crazy seeing the value of some of these things that I've just been hauling around with me forever and ever. So I've managed to sell a lot of things, and this whole spring cleaning, minimizing experiment that I've been doing has been quite the success. So I definitely recommend it to you guys out there. If you've got garages or closets filled with things that you don't need and can't use, and if they're things of value that other people might be able to use, it might be worth your time to put it online, try to get out, try to get rid of it. You might have a little windfall of money, and then somebody else can have a useful object that they can actually use if you're not using it yourself. Good all around. But that brings us to the next very exciting item on the agenda. Okay, so when I talked about this whole thing of trying to sell things, in the back of my mind, I thought, once I started kind of totting everything up and seeing how much I had to get rid of, I thought, okay, this is, if I actually can go through the hassle of selling all these things, I will have a good infusion of cash that I wasn't expecting. And obviously you can put that into responsible things, which, you know, I will. I made a deal with myself once I realized that, oh, I've got, you know, several $1,000s worth of stuff here. I figured, okay, to motivate myself to sell all this and go through the hassle of actually doing it and getting rid of it, clearing the space, all the things that I actually want to do, but it's kind of hard to motivate yourself to do it. I made a deal with myself that I could take half of what I sold, or half of the return of what I sold, and put that into camera gear, because cameras, photography, that is my main hobby. It's the thing that I do every single day. And I started thinking in the back of my mind, well, maybe I can actually get a Leica rangefinder, because, you know, I've been thinking about that for a long time. That's something that if you're into photography, especially into film photography, you'll probably have looked at Leicas and thought about Leicas and thought Leicas are too expensive. I'm never going to get one of those. But I started thinking, well, maybe I can. Now, I wasn't going to get a Leica M6. Those are thousands of dollars. They've gotten just ridiculously inflated recently because they got very popular on YouTube and Instagram. It seems like every hipster photographer on YouTube has a Leica M6, and that was just the camera that everyone wanted. And then people also often like the Leica M3, which was the first kind of modern M rangefinder camera. It came out in the mid-50s, I think 1954. People have the Leica M4P, the Leica M4 II. A lot of people, the Leica M5 is even having a resurgence lately. The one camera that Leica made that was in their classic line before they really started doing a more kind of automated production line, when they were still making them by hand, all steel, metal, all metal bodies, and then with all kind of brass gears and hand-fitted, the really classic Leicas, the M4. No one really ever talked about the original M4. It was made from 1966 to 1975. And when I started looking into that, I realized that it was still, I won't say reasonably priced, but it hadn't seemed to have gotten the hype that all the other Leica models had gotten. It was kind of the forgotten Leica, but to me it seemed perfect. It was fully manual, had no light meter, no electronics of any kind, no battery, handmade, hand-fitted, with brass gears, made to last a lifetime. It had a lot of the kind of modern features that people enjoyed on the M6, like the quicker film rewind knob. It had a quicker loading system for the film, but it was still made in that really classic handmade way. And I thought, why aren't people delving into this one as much? And I started looking. I still thought, oh, there's no way I'm ever going to be able to afford one of these. But as I started selling things, and then as I started looking, I realized, oh, this might be possible, maybe. I could never have justified it if I hadn't been doing this whole clear out where I was selling all these other things. I mean, I could have dipped into my savings and bought it, but I wasn't going to do that. But having this kind of windfall of things that I was selling, I thought, oh, maybe. And then I found one that a very nice man in Nova Scotia had. And the thing with it was, it had a serial number that put it right in the sweet spot of manufacture for the Leica M4. It was made in November of 1970. It had just gotten a CLA, so a clean lubricate and adjustment, from YYE cameras, which is kind of the premier Leica service technician in the US. People talk about him all the time. Everyone sends their stuff to him. So it had been recovered, new leatherette had been put on it, and then it had gotten a complete CLA where they cleaned, lubricated, adjusted everything, cleaned the rangefinder, adjusted the rangefinder mechanism. It was pretty perfect. It was reasonably priced, and then as I started communicating with this person, I made an offer that was really reasonable. With the exchange rate, it was even more reasonable. He accepted the offer, and I got it. I have a Leica M4 now. I don't have a lens yet. That is hopefully coming soon. I got a used lens off of eBay from Japan in the mail. But I am now the proud and kind of flabbergasted, because I never thought this would actually happen, owner of a Leica M4. Look at this thing. This is 55 years old, and it is gorgeous. There are no major dents. There are some scratches in the patina of the chrome, but nothing major. It is absolutely gorgeous. It has just been serviced. It smells amazing. It smells like a gun. And it's just fantastic. I'm going insane waiting for a lens for this thing because I want to use it so badly. But it's just absolutely beautiful. It's, I think, one of the most beautiful handmade or man-made mechanical objects I have ever handled. Listen to this. Oh. I cannot express to you how satisfying the film wind and shutter feel is on this camera. It's just amazing. It has a cloth curtain for the shutter, so let me put it on like half a second here. You can see it. So it's really quiet. There's no mirror clanging back and forth, but just the mechanics in general, though, it's so smooth and so precise feeling. Oh, it's so gorgeous. I can look through the rangefinder and I see the frame lines and I see the rangefinder patch, but obviously I can't focus it because there's no lens on it right now. There's a little lever here that actually changes the frame lines that you see, which is really cool. So I can see what a 35 lens would look like, a 50mm lens, a 90mm lens, and then with the frame lines for the 35mm lens, I also see the 135mm frame lines. It's very cool. This is one of those weird things where I had it in hand. I've been sitting at my desk just winding it and hitting the shutter over and over again. It's like a fidget spinner or something for me. And just, I'll catch myself every once in a while and be like, oh, I have a Leica. This is a Leica M4. It's gorgeous. They still make Leica film cameras. They make an MA, an MP, and a reissue of the M6. The MA doesn't have a light meter or anything. It's all manual, all mechanical. The MP does have a light meter, and then the M6 is basically exactly like the MP, but it just looks like an old M6. M6s were originally made in the 80s through the 90s, I think. I'm keeping it in this plastic bag because I don't have a body cap for it and I don't want it to get dust everywhere. But I don't really see why you would choose a brand new Leica that costs $6,000 when you could get a beautiful M4, as long as it's had a CLA and it's in good working order. The only thing this doesn't have that the newer MA has, the all-manual mechanical Leica, is that it doesn't have frame lines for a 28mm lens. It has the same size viewfinder. It's a 0.72 magnification viewfinder. And it has, in my opinion, a better rewind knob, because for the MA, they went back to the M3 style knob, which I think is slower. I like this film advance that this has. And it also has a self-timer, which the new cameras do not have. I don't know, I think it's gorgeous. I think it's amazing. I can't believe that I own a Leica now, and I will be using this a ton. Believe me, there will be a lot of videos on this. I know you always have to make the caveat, a camera is just a box, a light, tight box that allows you to take pictures. It doesn't really affect the quality of the picture. That has way more to do with the lens and the film and all that. But I think the rangefinder is going to affect a lot of the way I take pictures. I love my SLR, I love my Nikon FE2, and it's very good for a lot of things, especially, you know, for portraiture, and if you're using telephoto lens or you're doing macro stuff, it's fantastic. It's a great camera, and I'm still gonna be using that. But for the kind of photography that I'm really into, quick, street style stuff, documentary, reportage sorts of photography, I think the Leica M system is going to be perfect for that, and I can't wait to try it. And I just hope that you guys will look forward to seeing a lot more content about that camera on the channel. Ugh. Sneezing like crazy. I just blew my nose and there was a bug on my handkerchief. So it apparently had flown up my nose, I guess. I also, from this cuticle, was bleeding all over. I got blood all over my pocket. we're going to power through here, gang, because now it is time for hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, tweet at SAT Bradley with the hashtag #AskStuffandThings, but nobody ever does that. So instead, if you're a Patreon supporter, write to me via Patreon, go right to the front of the line, or leave questions, comments, and feedback on my YouTube videos in the comments sections. First of all, we have a question from @QuantumTarsus, who said, is it a Leica? When I mentioned that I was getting a new camera, yes, it is a Leica M4. Now we have some feedback from last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. This is from @JensAnderson1973, who says, others can have pipe essing on their channels. It is only about the money. The vaping piper can be recommended. I recognize Jens Anderson as somebody who has written a lot of comments in the past, always had good interactions and everything. Yeah, I guess other people can do pipe stuff on their channel if they don't want to be in the partner program. And like I said, I'm pretty sure that YouTube is eventually going to get rid of all pipe stuff. If it were about the money, Jens Anderson, I would post only things about the Midori Traveler's Notebook, because that is the most popular stuff that I post on the channel, that I've ever posted on the channel. I would just drill down. I would look at the most watched videos, which most of them weren't about pipe essing, by the way, and I would only do videos on those subjects. It is obviously not about the money, because I make almost no money doing this. It is about doing the things that I like to do on the channel. And that's just the method that we're using of putting anything that actually shows PSing has to go on Patreon. Everything else can go on YouTube, just the way it is. @JanRobinson8549 says, I've been rewatching Stuff and Things plays also. Right now I'm up to part 19 of Red Dead Redemption 2. I recently rewatched almost all of Deathloop. Outer Wilds might be next. I have a feeling your gaming channel viewers were more loyal than you think. They might have been more numerous as well. Glaring at YouTube logo. I appreciate the sentiment, Jan Robinson. Thank you for watching those videos. Like I said last week, Stuff and Things plays still exists. You can still watch all those videos. But I do think that my viewership was just really low on those videos. I don't know. I don't think there's any reason why YouTube would be suppressing them. I think people just didn't watch them. I mean, some people did, and I appreciate that. But yeah, it just never got very popular. Our good friend Mike @Revelation says, thanks for being such a great sport, Bradley. I went a bit mad scientist, if not borderline Walter White, with the experimentation. So talking about that cool experiment that he sent me, you'll be seeing a video about that on Patreon soon. I hope it's a fun experience for you and look forward to your reviews. My flavor guidelines are only suggestions, so please feel free to organize and characterize as desired. I hope you enjoy it and take good care, my friend. I did enjoy it. Thank you, Mike. P.S. Thanks also to your commentator for their fine C&D recommendation. I'll check that out. Yeah, I guess somebody recommended a Cornell and Deal blend for him. And then we have @ColinKelly279, good to hear from Colin, who says, I legit do not get the compression of T's. It seemed to be all the rage there for a while. It just seems like this is an awful preparation to actually S. Awesome you are getting the new camera. I enjoy your picks. Thanks, Colin. And yeah, I was kind of skeptical about it too. I don't know if it's really something that I would indulge in, because I don't know if it adds that much to the blend, but I definitely notice a difference, a noticeable difference. So interesting stuff. And then we have some feedback from the 2 Famous Photo Books video that I posted last week. You guys should all watch that. Watch it. And we have @ValveTuner, who says, great video on 2 very important photography books. I'm definitely buying The Americans. The Americans by Robert Frank. Fantastic book, available on Amazon for very cheap. Well, relatively cheap compared to what it is used. @Leopold597 says, thank you for the brilliant review. 80,000 to 78 is an amazing ratio of pictures taken to pictures that actually made it in the book. So when Robert Frank had this Guggenheim Fellowship he was using to travel around the country and take pictures, he took over 80,000 pictures and then weeded them down to 78 in the book. So yeah, I mean, when I have a collection, usually I start editing digital photos once I've got about 100 on my camera. And then once I've edited 100, I'll have maybe 15 to 20 that are like, these are okay. Now, how many of those would I say they go in a book? It's probably a similar percentage to what Robert Frank is getting. So that actually makes me feel kind of good. That if Robert Frank could take 80,000 photos and pick 78 that he liked to put in a book, I mean, obviously I don't think I've taken anything as good as anything Robert Frank has ever done, but yeah, it's a game of percentages, gang. Photography is, for sure. At Tom Brown 1898 says, Bradley, excellent program today. I'm going to be running out of battery soon. I've always loved black and white photography, but never engaged in it. The closest I came was over 40 years ago when a close friend discovered Ansel Adams and went right out and bought a couple of Nikon cameras. I went with him on a few shoots, serving as his pack mule. Next year will mark 50 years of our friendship. He did some very good work, but I can't say Ansel Adams spoke to me. I mean, how interesting is a rock? As for Frank's photograph of the black woman holding the white baby, check out my video if you haven't seen that. It took me back about 65 years. Virtually every family on our street had a, quote, colored nurse in the parlance of the time and place to look after their children. Were you in the South somewhere? That's weird. It confirms what you said about the evocative power of a photograph. And finally, regarding the elevator operator, we can't really say what a subject is feeling, only what we think they're feeling. Again, great show. Yeah, so I was talking a lot about some interesting philosophical things about photography and pointing them out with different examples from the book, so check that out. Yeah, Ansel Adams, I really love his photography, but it's not something that really draws me in. I think he was a master at exposure and printing, and his photography is amazing. One thing that I don't like that Ansel Adams did was he made the quote, you don't take a photograph, you make a photograph. And I can sort of see what he is saying in relation to his photography, but I hate how everyone else has taken that and run with it. And it always makes me cringe when I hear somebody on YouTube saying, this is a photograph I made. And it's some shot that they took. I take photographs, I don't make them. Anyway, and then if he was getting Nikon cameras, if he wanted to do Ansel Adams, you should have had like big view cameras, like large format cameras, if you want to be Ansel Adams. But thanks for all that feedback, gang. Please keep it coming in. It really helps make the show go. All right, but now, gang, it is time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support the channels on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is much appreciated. It's basically the only reason I can keep doing this, and you will get access to early and ad-free videos that post on YouTube, post on Patreon early and ad-free, and then there are a lot of exclusive videos posting on Patreon. I'm slowly working on moving all the pipe reviews over to Patreon, so there's going to be an entire archive of all those that you'll have access to on Patreon for $5 a month, and then every week we have videos as well. So every week we like to shout out those who support the channels at $25 or more a month, the producers of the Stuff and Things programming. People like Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, Jonathon Proctor, The Friendly Piper, GreatGrol, Glenn, Just Glenn, David Severin, Nicholas James, Kyle Whitmore, Mr. Gibson, and Chris Caughey. And of course, the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels at $100 a month, people like Bob Magee. And we'll never forget our dearly departed friend and Hall of Fame member, Peter Straub. All right, and what can you expect exclusively on Patreon this week? We will have the Can I Guess the Mystery Blend video, the fun video where Les Brady sent me a mystery blend and I had to try to guess what it was. And then we will also have the Rattray's Old Gowrie review, the original review I did of Old Gowrie back in April of 2015. So I just did Howl of the Wind a couple weeks ago on Patreon, and so it'll be cool to look back at the very first Rattray's blend I ever reviewed on YouTube over 10 years ago. So lots of good stuff coming up on Patreon and on YouTube. So please stay tuned, but until next time, until we meet again, I've been your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday Stuff and Things. A Leica M4. Oh. I'll see you later.